The Springboks have thanked South Africans for their unwavering support. So let's discuss now some of the lessons that this display of unity has, at least for many of us in the country. In fact, we'll ask the question, how important has this been for social cohesion? Joining us now is Head of Social and Political Ethics at Stellenbosch University's Philosophy Department. That's Professor Vasti, who joins us via our video link. And Prof, it's great to have you on the program. Thanks very much indeed for making time. You know, since the Springboks won, I've been wondering at a very personal level, at which point we're going to start having, I don't know, a more sober, critical conversation about how far this really goes. And I'm so delighted that you've written about this. And part of what you explain is that there's expedient unity and principled unity. Let's start by just breaking down what that is.
Yes, so expedient unity is the kind of unity, or let's say the kind of approach to unity that says I'll collaborate with you as long as I win, as long as I get the biggest share of the pie. Principled unity or principled collaboration is the kind of collaboration where one isn't simply out to win, to beat the other side, to get the biggest share of the pie for yourself, but you recognize that this kind of collaboration, or you can only get a meaningful share for yourself if you actually collaborate with others, with your fellow citizens or your fellow teammates, according to rules that are fair to everyone. So that's a different kind of unity, and it's a different kind of collaboration than the kind of I win, you lose kind of collaboration.
And how does this, I suppose, circle back to the victory of the Springboks and, I suppose, the conversations that have dominated public discourse for the past couple of days?
Well, I think there's a really interesting insight that we can gather from the Bok victory, but from the way that the team has played. So the kind of unity that has mattered or that relates to the Springbok team is the result of everybody doing their best and everybody collaborating in such a way that it allows everyone else to do their best. So in a way, it's a kind of a unity that emerges from the collaboration rather than starting by saying we must be unified and on the basis of that belief trying to undertake something. I mean, you can imagine, you know, what would Siya Kolisi say to his teammates in the dressing room before they run out onto the field? I would imagine not let's be unified, but rather do your best. And out of that, doing one's best, doing the hard things, unity emerges.
Yeah, and it's incredibly insightful because the real concern here is that if what the Springboks have done is seen as this kind of one-fit-all solution to all our problems, it robs us the opportunity of working on the things that really matter, and in that way, fostering the unity we also desperately need in this country. In other words, the victory itself doesn't mean we're done. In fact, perhaps it's the energy we need to get started.
Exactly. And again, think for a moment how this victory came about. It wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a once-off, and it wasn't that they got lucky throughout the tournament, that they played weaker teams, and at the last second, well, you know, it could have gone either way, and they kind of won by accident. They have done their best. They have been pitted against the best opponents, and they have done the hard work all the time. Hard work, great effort doesn't always lead to victory. That one must also concede. But without that, without striving for excellence, there also is no success.
Absolutely. You know, a part of what you speak about in this article that I'm referencing is unity for all the wrong reasons. And I suppose in some ways you've touched on that. Yesterday, the president gave an address and his political opponents have already slammed him for using that for political expediency. I wonder whether or not anybody should be surprised that a politician is playing politics, but perhaps that aside. But there is something to be said about that, right? Riding this way for all the wrong reasons, and in some ways, I suppose, taking away the magic that comes with what the Springboks have been able to make the country feel.
Yeah, I think there are different There are different types of wrong reasons. One type of wrong reason, or let's say wrong way of celebrating this unity, is really just to see it as a kind of or to ride a set of feelings. And of course we have feelings. I mean, you've just shown the people at the airport, and if I were there, I would also be, screaming my lungs out.
Right.
But the feelings are not actions. And our politicians are very good at trading on our feelings to make us believe that something has happened. We as citizens, I think, should be a bit more wary of that and recognize when is it simply a matter of awakening warm feelings, and when do those warm feelings result from actual achievement. So that's a good distinction to make.
Absolutely. And at some stage you speak about the stokvel model. I'll let you explain what that is, because in some ways that too has interesting insights about ways in which we could leverage from this moment, frankly.
So one of the things I think that is difficult when we try to talk about unity, this kind of abstract concept, right? So we need to think of some sort of model, mental model of what do we mean by unity. So I think that the Springbok team and their collaboration, that's one example. I think we also have a great homegrown example of the kind of unity that I would like to advocate, and that is the stokvel model. And a stokvel is a system of cooperation in which each member is both each other's debtor and creditor. Right, so it's a mutual savings loan agency, but it doesn't mean if you're part of a stokvel that you get a payout every month or every week. You get a payout when it's your turn, but you have agreed on the rules of the payout. Right? You have agreed when it would be your turn, and you can only get your payout if you had also contributed in such a way that other people can get their payout when it's their turn. Now, I know real livestock stokvels, have all the failings of normal human beings, but this kind of model of, that we are each other's debtors and creditors, and we are collaborating in a joint project that is both to our individual advantage, but also to our collective advantage. I think that is a very good model to keep in mind when we talk about unity.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because that was going to be my next question, right? The model only works in certain environments. In fact, anybody who's been part of a stokvel will tell you, at the heart of it, you need people of integrity, people who are honest, and people who will stick to this agreement. And perhaps in some ways, that's what we can work on, at least when we try to think about how this model could work for the South African society.
Yes, I mean, fundamentally, a stokvel cannot work if there isn't trust.
Yeah.
And you cannot have trust if you do not have trustworthy members. That goes for a stokvel, but it goes for a business, and it certainly goes for a society. And I do think that our level of trust in this country is incredibly low, and for good reason. Right? I mean, if you are constantly disappointed in the promises that have been made, there's reason to be cynical. I guess what the Springboks are doing for us at the moment is kind of breaking through some of that cynicism, to remind us of what it could be. So that's a sort of a vision, an ideal that would be good for us to keep in mind going forward.
Absolutely. I certainly enjoy this kind of philosophical perspective on what we've been speaking about for the past couple of days. So thanks very much indeed for your insights. Really appreciate your time. Professor Vasti Roodt is with the University of Stellenbosch, part of the philosophy department there. Once again, thanks very much indeed.